All right, well, it's past Thanksgiving now, but happy Thanksgiving. It's Black Friday. We don't have a football game today. There's plenty of good ones out there today, but we will kick off tomorrow, 2:30, Como. We'll see what happens. I think it may be our year. We never beat them there, but we'll see.
Yeah, next week's going to suck for him, but other than that, yeah.
What is happening? Welcome into the Gravity Design Lab studio. Let's get into the show. All right, we're back in with Austin. We're going to break down the Missouri game. We're bowl eligible now, so that's awesome. Did you get to watch any of that Law Tech game last week?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. The end score did not necessarily dictate what I thought about the game, but we beat them by 3 touchdowns and we're bowl eligible, like you talked about.
Yep, that was kind of my thought too. That I was like, yeah, it wasn't the prettiest of wins, but we're bowl eligible. It's not a loss. We could have been having a very different conversation if that would have been a loss, but right now we're bowl eligible. We're going for our 7th win against Missouri. I think we got a fairly good shot in that one. And then, I mean, you get that game and you get the bowl game, you're at 8 wins on the year. I mean, that's a pretty good year considering Vegas had us at like 4.5 wins on the over-under beginning of the year. So that's not bad. I mean, I had us at 6-6, 7-5 on a few things going our way. It's preseason looking to this point now. It's not a disappointment. But you watch how things break down through the year. Oklahoma State, gosh, you wish you had that one. There's a few that it's like we were right there. Like we could have had that, and we could have been talking potentially playoff berth if we have a few things go our way. That Ole Miss loss would probably knock us back out of that, but that was a pretty ugly one. But I don't know. I think looking forward at Missouri, they're a 3-point favorite. Over-under is set at, 53.5 now? So they're thinking it's going to be a close game. What are your thoughts going into it?
Yeah, that feels about right. That's, somewhere around like a 28-24 game. That feels pretty good. I would give them upper hand just because they are on their home field, but I could see this game going every way possible. I could see it being a close win for us, them, a blowout either way. Brady Cook, we talked about this kind of off camera a little bit. He's the heart and soul of that team. If he's been mostly injured, throughout the year, something's been kind of bugging him, but when he plays, they usually find a way to win somehow. That's the best way I know how to describe it because they have won overtime games and like last minute comebacks and everything this year, and he's kind of been at the middle of all of it. But I think even a lot of their fans would tell you that this is not the way they thought their year would go. But they're sitting there with 8 wins, and even though they're not a playoff team like Eli thinks they are, they're still having a good year. But I do think this is absolutely a game we can win. It's secondary, it's what I think it is.
That's going to be a big key. I mean, if we can keep Brady in check, I mean that's he's always cooked us. That was my line on the Real NWA JB show. So that's I'll bring the pun over here to our platform. Brady Cook has always cooked us. So hopefully we can keep him in check. Our defense has been looking good. I mean they've been looking good all year except for one game, and that one was just a perfect storm of all kinds of craziness. So I think we'll look at a close game again. So that 3 points is about right. I think it's about a pick 'em. If we can wrangle him in, the dual threat is always scary at QB, but we got one in our own backfield of Talon that is Taylor Talon.
Talon. It's Talon.
Talon. Oh, Talon. Oh, Talon. God, what an idiot. I hope he uses that and just goes off on that. I can't stand Drink. He's so goofy, cheesy. but they're winning. I mean, it is what it is. But golly,
And in some ways, I like it, and it really helps it out, kind of make it be a rivalry game, just because he is such a just a dummy. Like, just you know, they call him Dorkowitz, and that's I'm right there with it. But it's just another thing to add on to there. We got to start taking some of these games. We need to start winning. That way, it could be a real rivalry. But this is just kind of that extra stuff that, looking 10, 15 years down the line, you may not even think about it. But you're like, man, I can't stand those guys. And you don't even know why you can't stand them. That's how I am with LSU, and how a lot of people are about Texas is you're like, I don't even know why I don't like them so much. I mean, you do, but like on that same note, you're like, man, I hate those guys.
yeah, it's one of those. It's in your blood.
Yeah. If I'm being 100% honest, it has nothing to do with like the Battle Line Rivalry or like, how they're trying to force this trophy game or anything, but it is slowly starting to become one of those teams to where I usually root for Missouri to lose no matter who they're playing most of the time. And I want to beat them. And their fans look at us the same way, but there's so many years I feel like we should have beat them, and we just didn't get the job done. I feel like we are or should be above to where they're at, but I mean, they're doing better than us recently. So you got to give them props for that.
Yeah, and this is another one of those games that is huge in recruiting because I mean we've seen that we've lost some recruits. I'm thinking of Crutchfield out of Pine Bluff, wide receiver went there. I mean, this is one of those games that's huge in that aspect, and so you have to get this game to kind of keep that momentum going on the recruiting trail. Even not just to mention records and bowl wise, like that's a huge aspect of this game and this rivalry.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of pile on to that, they've got Curtis Kane coming up to visit for that game, which he's currently committed to LSU, which, holy moly, they're falling apart in their recruiting. They just lost Underwood, that quarterback everybody knows about. He flipped to Michigan. They lost another recruit yesterday. They're trying to flip this guy, but I you cannot tell me that it is not on purpose that they got him to come up and visit for the Arkansas game when he is an Arkansas kid. And they did the same thing with Crutchfield last year. And they also got the other Pine Bluff receiver. I mean, Crutchfield's the notable one. But, yeah, I mean, it's huge. If you can get them up there and beat them during their visit, that's a notch in your cap.
I know when I play NCAA, I try to do that. I try to get if I'm competing with a school that I'm playing, I try to get them up there so they can see me just absolutely destroy whoever I'm trying to get. So I mean, makes sense. I mean that's the move. But hopefully it works in the opposite way that we go in there this year and we just absolutely lay the wood out there and just get it. And just it's one of those games. I mean, we've done it before. We've beat them before like that, but it's been very rare, which is crazy because I've always looked at Missouri as like the little guy, but they're not. I mean, they're historically recent history better than we are. I mean, it's kind of crazy. But what are give me three keys what you think will help Arkansas get a victory in this one?
Yeah, there's going to be some that I hit on just over and over again with every game, but I've said it before. I mean, certain keys just fit certain teams. I mean, every time you play the Kansas City Chiefs, I mean, your number one goal is stop Patrick Mahomes, and probably Travis Kelce's right behind it. We don't have a Mahomes or a Kelce, but take care of the ball. I mean, even last week we got the win, but it's because that team was terrible. And we were just truly more talented. That is the only game all year to where turnovers did not come back to absolutely kill us. So you got to hang on to the ball. Taylon's been better about it. He had a couple of decisions last week to where it wasn't, but it's not just Taylon. You can't have freshman receivers fumbling on tunnel screens. You can't have freshmen gunners that are blockers running into your punt returner. I mean, it's everybody. You got to hold on to the ball. So Not just a Taylor problem. It was early in the year, but here lately it's been kind of everybody else. You can't have your 6'7" receiver hit the ball right in his hands and it tips straight to a defender. So hang on to the ball. Defensively, it's a secondary game. Their running game is solid enough, but what wins them games are Cook, Burton, and Weiss. They're two main receivers, and Cook. If you can hold those guys down, they'll win, and they'll probably win solid. So it's going to be key. I was hoping Braxton would play this game because it would have preserved his red shirt, but he's not going to be with you. He hadn't been with most of the year. So you got to find a way to keep those guys down. And then I think the line's got to protect Talon. So there's been games to where he holds on to the ball too long. And, you kind of are what you are by this time of the year. You're not going to make a week-to-week change that just revolutionizes everything. He's a quarterback that needs a little bit longer to process information and hit his reads. And he's going to be able to, scramble or whatever he's going to do. He's got to have a little bit of time, so you got to give it to him. So if they can hold up in protection, I think he'll make reads and he'll be able to get the ball downfield. Hopefully JJ can stay healthy and he'll punch the ball in the end zone.
You ready for this? Run the ball. Control the ball. Control the time of possession. That's the key. I mean, it's the key every week, and it's got to happen. I mean, I'll add, realistically, those are my three keys. We do that, I think we're fine. But we have to control Cook. Like, we can't let him get out of the pocket. We can't let him run on us because he's a pretty dangerous runner also. Once he gets kind of some space, he can take off. But we can't let it get over the top. We got to spy on him. And I think we'll be okay, but the line has to protect. I mean, we have to play a great game. I mean, we can't have the special teams blunders like we did. Like, if I see another gunner blocker run into our return man, I may lose my mind. Like, that's the craziest thing to happen ever. But to happen, how many times has it happened this year? Like 5 times?
Yeah, if it happens once in a year, that's not a good thing. If it happens a handful, it's unbelievable. Like, it's crazy.
It is crazy, and that's the craziest thing I've ever seen. But we can't have that. We can't beat ourselves in this game. Is essentially that's the main, because Missouri is good. I mean, they're not as good as they have been in like the past couple of years, and like you said, they've gotten extremely lucky on some of the games, which I think you said off camera that once it happens, you get lucky so many times. Is it really luck anymore? Or is that just kind of how it is? You're good enough to overcome it. That's possible. I mean, that's very likely, but they're main people. They have a big three, basically, like you said, the 2 receivers and Cook is their power on their offense. And so if we can protect Talon to where he can have that time to process and truly make the best decision and not force it into bad spots or whatever. But ultimately, I mean, we have 4 backs that I would feel very good about running the ball too, not even including Green. I mean, all 4 of our guys that are hitting the ground. I mean, we didn't even see Braylon last week, which hopefully he said on Twitter after the game that he was fully healthy and ready to go. Hopefully there's not something more there. But I think if we can get him going again, get Jackson going again, get Hill going again, and R-Dub has looked great the past few weeks. So, I mean, we're 4 deep in that position again, and I feel good about everybody that's back there. Hill may be the like low man on the totem pole, and he's still very good. So if we can get some of that going, we get Satania going on some short routes. Obviously, Armstrong is going to be Armstrong. I mean, he's going to do good. Broden, if he can not tip the ball and just bring it in when it hits him, I'll be fine with that. But if he drops another pass, I'm really at this point, I don't really want to see him on the field. I would rather see Satania get his shot, Anthony get his shot. I mean, there's so many guys that Tesla. I mean, there's so many guys that can catch the ball when it comes to them, and then they also have the speed afterwards to take off with it. So CJ Brown, freshman, fumbling that ball. That's tough, but that's a tough spot to just come in cold as a freshman, big spot. And I get that. It was probably designed, and it was like that was his play. Like he should have made it, but that's a tough spot to come in as a freshman. So you just hold on to the ball there, but it might have been a different game then. But it is what it is. I think that's the key. Run the ball. I mean, you got that talent there. Don't try to get crazy and go down the field unless it's open. You have your cut downs and stuff. I think a couple of the drop passes and turnovers, in fact, where he had his check down, that was just wide open. I mean, there wasn't anybody from Tawny Town to Fayetteville around him. So, I mean, you just got to take care of the ball. You got to make better decisions there and use your legs. So, I think that's the key. Run the ball, control the clock. Don't turn it over. Don't give it back to him. Don't beat yourself. Don't get bad penalties that affect everything. I mean, they've been better about that this year, but there's been times that it's creeped back in. So you just can't let that be an issue. Period.
I'm with you. Hot take. I hope Broden doesn't see the field. I've been over that dude for 10 games. I don't know how else to say it. If you could give every single one of Taylon's targets to Armstrong, Tesla, Satanga, Haas, I would be perfectly fine with that. Run the ball every other play. I'm so tired of watching him miss passes or run crazy routes. Or I'm not putting the fumble on CJ. I mean, that's a huge game and a huge spot, and I think he'll be a player for us down the road. Coaching staff has talked about him mainly early in the year, but I'm not putting that on him. But, yeah, you've got main weapons. Use them, and we can win this game.
I mean, that's absolutely right. There's so many weapons at receiver. I didn't even mention Haas. Like that's how deep our receiver should be, and the fact that he keeps rolling out there and dropping passes multiple every game, it just can't happen. We gotta get that figured out. Now we'll get into the picks here. The pick of what we're looking at. I have a question for you though before we get into that. I heard somebody ask the other day, do you want Taylon Green back at quarterback, or do you want to try to get somebody different? What's your thought on that? I hadn't really even thought about he has eligibility left. I just assumed, he's coming back. He's going to be the guy. It's going to be better. But what do you think about that? What's your gut tell you?
Yeah, I was going to kind of mention this in a little bit, so I'm glad you brought it up. I think it's something we'll probably hit a lot on next week, just because we're going to do a end of season recap and figure out what's going to happen, where's it going, who's staying. I mean, and kind of go through that. So if Bobby comes back, let's just dive down this scenario of Sam's back, because I think unless he retires, and I mean this game could hold weight on that, and obviously the surgery. I mean, I think that holds weight on it. I don't think he can do what he did this year again, so I think that surgery has to go well. And but I think he'll be back at this point, as well as I think everybody else thinks he will. So let's just go down the most likely scenario: Bobby coming back, Sam coming back. I think Taylon comes back in that instance. I think he's gotten better. And is he perfect? No. Is he the fourth leading passer in the SEC? Yes. Is he the leading rusher at quarterback in the SEC? I'm pretty sure that's yes. You have to fact check me on it, but he is not, I would say, the absolute reason we're losing everything. Now, did a lot of those passing yards come in a few games? Yes. But he's also been injured. Bobby's quarterbacks always do better in a second year. I think the receiving core is going to be a big part of next year, because you lose Armstrong, you lose Tesla, like those, and Broden, which, addition by subtraction. Your main guy is, I thought in the offseason, Satanga was gone. Does he leave this year? Like, are you going to have to replace a whole receiving core? there's a lot of questions that's got to be, answered in just the next few months. But as of now, I think he's back. I'll be happy that he's back. Like, would I take, somebody like a Jackson Dart? I mean, I know he's probably going to go pro, but like, if you tell me that guy's coming in, yeah, like I'll take him. Like if Arch Manning wants to, come over to Arkansas or like, throw out your quarterbacks that are unrealistic possibilities or whatever. Sure, there are guys in the country that are better, but I think he's been solid this year. I think he can be better with another year. So I think he's back, and honestly, I'll be excited to see what he does next year.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it too. I think, like you said, we got to replace a lot of our receiving core. I mean, and you look at like I know he's been hurt, so hopefully it's not. Hopefully there's a lot of like talk inside the like there's stuff that people don't know on the outside. Hopefully, but like Haas, I could see him if he's not happy with the touches. I could see him going to Oklahoma State or something like that. So I mean, like that's a position that you don't want him to leave. Like you want him to be here. You want him to be your guy. But in a world of NIL that you're having to pay millions of dollars to get those top end quarterbacks, like the flip from that went to Michigan, like you were talking about. I mean, you have El Presidente saying, "Hey, yeah, whatever it takes, let's get him. Like I'll give you multi millions a year to get a good quarterback. I want Taylor Green, and I want to put that money into a receiving core. Like I want weapons around him because like you said, I mean, he's improved. Yes, he's thrown 9 interceptions, but he's also accounted for 13 passing touchdowns and I don't even know how many rushing touchdowns. But I mean, that's not all against like the UAPBs. Like, yes, that game was nuts, but he has been solid and good for the most part, and he's been hurt. I mean, you get him some linemen around him, fill in some of those holes. Kudos redshirting this year and coming back is going to be huge, I think. But you got to fill in some pieces there on the line, fill in the receiving core. Hopefully, you can keep a lot of your running backs intact and bring in some new guys. I don't know who we have off the top of my head. I wasn't really planning on going down that road, but it popped in my head, so I wanted to ask. But I don't know what we have been coming in as like freshman recruits or whatever, but we should be okay. If we can keep the staff intact around, because like you said, I think Pittman's here. I think he's our guy next year. Now, if he does what he did this year, next year, then I don't. I think the basement has got to be 6 wins and period. It can't go lower than that again. And really, it needs to be. We need to be hanging around that 7-8 win basement would be ideal. But I think if you have all your pieces, you have all that going, and you can put some NIL money into the receiving core and some weapons around him. I love him coming back because if he can have a second year in Bobby's system, if he can take the offseason to get bigger and health and to where he can stay healthy, he could be huge. I mean, that's the. I thought that was an interesting question. I hadn't really thought about like trying to get another quarterback or him leaving or anything like that. I hadn't thought about that, so I was like, well, interesting, but no, let's keep the core pieces intact here, which would include the quarterback, because you can't be changing quarterbacks every year and expect to compete.
I could go another hour on this, so I'll try and keep it brief because I mean that's the kind of stuff I love. But we'll dive more into it over the coming weeks. But it's one of those age old sayings of what are you going to it depends on what you can get. So I've kind of been an advocate most of the year where I thought this was the year to make the change from Sam. I don't think it's going to happen. But I don't want to just go change him for anybody. So it's the same thing with Talon. Like if I knew we had the next coming of Brian Mallett that wanted to come here, sure, I'll take him. But I think there are a lot of teams around the country that would trade everything they got to get a guy like Talon. There's probably a few teams in the SEC that would not mind having that guy back there. And it's his first year in a new system with a guy that's been here before, but a guy who hadn't been an offensive coordinator in a long time. So I think an off season can do them good, but it's going to all depend on how basically the next month goes. Probably like 5 weeks, because he tends to hyper focus on Armstrong. Armstrong's not coming back through the door next year. There are some guys that can make some decisions on coming back. He's not one of them. So how's this guy going to do with a whole new receiving core? Who are we going to get there? So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to, and we'll see from there how it goes.
Tease for the next few weeks here, because I bet it feels like we're going to dive pretty deep into that, because we'll have championship week that has no effect on Arkansas. So we'll dive into recapping the season us up to the bowl. We'll kind of look at what bowls are coming up here before long, because that's going to be launching. So stay tuned for that. We'll get into that. We'll get into some more basketball talk too. We're in the middle of basketball season. Dropped a semi-disappointing one to Illinois in basketball, but it's they felt like the better team. We still have our issues to work through as a team, so we'll get more into basketball as we get through football here. But that's kind of the plan. All right, well let's get into the picks. Mizzou is a 3-point favorite. Over/under is 53.5. It opened at 54.5, so the over/under's dropped a point since it opened. Spread stayed the same. ESPN matchup predictor has Mizzou at 67.1% to win the game. Take it away. What do you think is going to happen?
This may be the most unsure I've picked a game all year, because, like I said, I could see it going every single way. I could see a couple touchdown win for us, them, a close victory either way. I really don't know what's going to happen. If I had to guess, I would probably pick us on the points. Is it 3 or 3.5?
It's 3 now, right now.
It may be a push. I feel like it could. It doesn't help me, but I feel like Missouri probably pulls it out, but it's a close game. But like I said, I could see it going anyway. It's such a tough pick for me. If I had to pick off of the points, I'll pick Arkansas. But if I had to pick straight up, I'll take Missouri.
Yeah, I'm going Missouri 20. Or sorry, rewind. Arkansas 27, Missouri 24. I think it's a push by the points standpoint, but we're getting the points, so taking Arkansas points and money line. I think as long as we can do what we said. Run the ball, control the clock, control the ball, control the time possession, and keep Brady in check. I think it could be ugly too. We could go in there and route them. I don't see that happening though.
And one thing that also kind of factors into this could possibly be a snow game. If it's a snow game, I think that favors us, just because I feel like our defense is a little more solid, and I think we could control more, because, like I said, I think if they win the game, Cook's going to have a good game. Everybody knows it's harder to pass than the snow. So that could play to our advantage. But, that's kind of stuff that could sway the game one way or another. So I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a good game.
For sure. And we also have the added bonus of we're not playing at home. So this team plays better on the road, always has, which is crazy. But that's an added bonus. That home field advantage points may actually work in reverse for us. That may be a push. But anyway, yeah, there we go. I think Arkansas wins it outright. I think it's a 3-point game, but I think it's a 3-point the other way. So we'll see. Until next time, stay blessed, stay passionate, tell somebody you love them. Happy Thanksgiving. Be safe out there. Enjoy the cold weather. Austin, you got anything else to add?
Not right now. Like I said, I'm ready for next week just to start diving into the off-season and everything. I'm an off-season type of guy, but we'll see you guys back next week.
There you have it. Off-season coming in next week, and bowl talk. All right. See y'all next week.